Welcome back to the Anglotopia Podcast. Apologies for the radio silence, literally.
Yep.
We're all coming up on 2 years now since we last did a podcast.
Shocking.
Shocking, I know. There are many excuses. None of them really particularly matter other than pandemic. And
we had like kids e-learning for a year at home, and we both work from home, and it's a lot. And
we both work full-time jobs now outside of Anglotopia, so finding the time to sit and record the podcast is a challenge.
And a quiet house.
And a quiet house, because we need good, clean audio. And so hopefully the noise will stay away while we discuss all things British.
Yes.
So hopefully, we're hoping to do more regular podcasts. We will not promise the schedule, but we're hoping to do one every few weeks going forward. We may choose to start doing audio only for some things, just to make it's easier to just record audio than it is to do video and get set up for a video. So we may have audio only podcast soon, or a mixture of the various kinds. This is...
So, but if you're not on video, what is this?
Yes. We have created the world's only Union Jack LED Lightbox.
Yes, look at it. It's so gorgeous. If you're not watching on video, I recommend look it up on the website.
Yeah, it's on the store. So last year, about this time last year, I was having to think about things because I spend a lot of time thinking about the business and how we can grow it and expand it and move into new things.
And what our readers want.
And what our readers want based on what we sold before. And I was looking at the numbers, and the most popular product that we've ever sold is the London Underground tube light box.
Those are very cool.
Which we do not make, and I should have put one in the frame, but we imported it.
It'll be in the show notes.
Yeah, it'll be in the show notes because we do still sell them. They're made by a British company, and we imported them to the U.S. and it was the easy way for people to buy it because a lot of people would see them in the British or the London Transport Museum, but they didn't want to have to bring it home, so they could order it from us. And we sold a lot of those. I won't say how many, but we sold a lot of them. And
they've been very successful.
They were very successful. They funded our trip when we did the drive from Lansing to John O'Groats in 2018. That those lights paid for that. So
well, in part, and then there was what we brought to the table. So
I was thinking though that no one really makes a Union Jack lamp, and what inspired this was I was watching Peep Show. We were doing our annual Peep Show rewatch.
If you haven't seen it, hilarious.
One of our favorite British comedies.
The characters are absolutely detestable.
It's a disgusting TV show.
Terrible human beings.
Vulgar, but it's hilarious.
Very funny. And really a really good encapsulation of kind of that time period. Not
early
just
2000s.
Not just early 2000s Britain, but just being in your mid to late 20s and kind of getting life started and that sort of thing. So it's fun. Definitely put that in the show notes for folks.
Yeah, the show definitely is. It's a lot of fun. And it's on all the streaming services, and you can usually find it for free, too. So we were watching Peep Show, and on the table in Mark and Jez's living room is a Union Jack lamp. Okay? And I saw that lamp, and I'm like, Anglotopia followers, they would like to have that lamp. I would like to have that lamp. That's a nice lamp. I began researching. Well, the Peep Show was made 15 years ago, so nobody makes the lamp anymore. You can't buy the lamp anywhere. I couldn't find the lamp anywhere. I looked everywhere, scoured the interweb, and I'm pretty good at finding things on the internet. Both of us together, we're pretty good at finding things that don't want to be found on the internet. If she watches a movie and sees a nice briefcase or purse, she knows how to find what it is.
Yeah, speaking of which, if anybody finds the briefcase from the second episode of The Dropout, the Elizabeth Holmes documentary it's not a documentary, drama on Hulu, please ping us. I have searched high and low, written the costume designer. I have to find this briefcase, but I digress. Sorry.
Anyway.
Way off topic.
So I can't find this lamp anywhere, and I'm like, okay. I was looking at the London Underground light box, because I have one in my office, because of course I do. And I was looking at one of those plastic cinema signs that you see everywhere now where you change the letters and stuff. And I'm like, it can't be that difficult to combine the two, to make a Union Jack rectangle LED light box. They can't be that difficult to create. Well, it is difficult to create because you have to find somebody to make it. And I tried to make a prototype myself and it didn't work. And so finally I found a factory that specializes in making LED light things. I literally had to learn how to do all of this as I was doing it. And that's usually the funnest way to grow a business, is you learn by doing. And
it's the most expensive way as well. I'm not going to lie.
So, I had no way. I had no idea how you have something made to your specifications. So I found this factory. I said, look, I want to make basically this light box that you're selling off the shelf, but I want you to put a Union Jack on it. And there was a language barrier, but we were able to communicate, and they understood what I wanted to do. They sent a prototype, and the prototype was okay, but it didn't quite work. So I had them go back to the drawing board, and I had to make it bigger and make it out of wood and make it more substantial and increase the number of LEDs in it so it was much brighter. A few other tweaks to put the plug on the side so that you could hang on the wall and plug it in, and the plug would hang rather than be behind it. It's battery operated. So this is the actual second prototype. So it still looks a little rough. It's not one of the new ones. But we wanted to show the prototype. Like, this dark shadow is not in the final product. In the corner there, it's not in the final product. And so when I flicked it on for the first time for you, and we're like, we have to, like, that's it. That's the thing. We have to sell that. Like, we need to make it. Well, it's very expensive to make things. We had to contract with the factory. We had to order a certain amount, which was a lot of money. And it's a big investment in the business. Thankfully, we were able to make it. And then we launched it last fall to pre-orders because it was going to take 3 or 4 months for them to actually get to us, because they had a lot
of lead time.
Yeah, they had to physically make them. And I have pictures of them making it. It's a lot of fun to see the process. And then they had to go on a boat to get here. But then they all arrived in February. Actually, they arrived in late January. They arrived early. And so we sold a few in the pre-order. We'd hoped to sell more in the pre-order, but it was a very expensive product. So we've learned from that, and we've now lowered the price. It's now $49 plus shipping. We ship anywhere in the world.
Well, wait, there are a couple of exceptions where we don't ship.
Yeah, if we don't ship to your country, the system won't let you order it. But
sorry about that.
Like, we can't ship to Russia right now. We can't ship to Syria or Iran. A few other countries that are on the Postal Service's list of places you can't send things to.
The U.S. Postal Service list.
So, yeah. So now we have a basement full of these. So please buy them, because we need the space back in our basement. Because if you can imagine 500 of those, that's a lot of space.
Yes.
So, and we've sold 50 so far, I think.
We've done pretty well, I think.
Yeah, I'm confident we'll sell them all. And I've had to, the whole process was fascinating to learn how to have something made and how to get it and how to market it. And so we're trying new things to market it than we would normally do for new product launches. Like, we sponsored Lawrence Brown over at Lost in the Pond for a video, and he showed off.
Definitely check out his channel.
Check out his channel. And check out the video that we did. We'll put it in the show notes. That was fun. He did a great video. He did a great unboxing of the tube light, so you can see what it's like if it's unboxed.
He's a great guy too.
Yeah, they live in Chicago, so they're friends and good friends to have. So, yeah, that's the big thing. Within the last year since we had the legal troubles last spring, which we don't really need to rehash now. And yeah, so please buy a Union Jack Lightbox. You can't buy it from anybody else.
Nope.
It's exclusive to us and our basement where they are stored. So beyond that, our main topic that we wanted to talk about in this episode was travel to Britain. What does that look like for 2022? When are we going to travel again? When is, with COVID-19 and everything, it's been a year, 2 years of travel uncertainty for everybody. Granted, there have been more important things to be concerned about. I know, we, like pretty much everybody, we didn't travel for the longest time. We only started going really anywhere domestically when we got fully vaccinated. Then we felt comfortable enough to just travel to the next state or two. And so now we're all considered to be in a new phase of the pandemic where most places are...
Well, I think we should excuse me, I misspoke. I think we should say that, at least in the U.S., there's this feeling of we're kind of moving into a new phase of the pandemic. Because globally, like China right now, I mean, as we record this podcast, very end of March, very beginning of April, like, they're having serious issues again, and certain other parts of the world are as well, so... But U.S.-wise, there's very much a feeling, and from what we've read in, most of Europe, Western Europe, like, there's this feeling of we're coming to a new phase, so...
Yeah, and we should also say that neither of us are medical professionals.
No.
We are not providing you medical advice.
No.
We are only giving you information based on our own experiences, what we plan to do, and our own level of risk tolerance.
And our opinions are our own.
But I'm also closely following what other travel industry professionals are saying. Rick Steves is my personal idol, and I trust a lot what he has to say. And he has said that if you're vaccinated and you're willing to...
Fully vaccinated
and you're willing to be conscious of an ever-changing situation and whatnot, then it's perfectly all right to travel, as long as you're willing to be flexible in your planning and whether you're going to wear a mask or not, whether you bring your COVID certificates and whatnot. So,
and even domestically, like when we've traveled interstate, like our state versus other states, like you just have to be very prepared to adhere to the guidelines of wherever you're going. So, bring masks, bring your vaccination card or whatever proof of vaccination that you have, and, be prepared to show those when asked.
Yeah, and so that brings us to... So Britain itself, they no longer have any COVID-related travel restrictions.
Is that coming from the U.S. or globally?
Coming from everywhere.
Okay.
They scrapped them all earlier this month. You do not need to be vaccinated, which... if you're going to travel, we really think you should be vaccinated.
Well, we're going to reserve our opinion.
Yeah, that's our opinion. You do not need to fill out passenger locator forms. You don't need to wear a mask. You don't need to do any of the things that we were all expected to do during the pandemic anymore to travel to Britain. They've opened the doors. And the corollary to that is Visit Britain has launched a huge campaign to get visitors and tourists to come back to Britain, because... While the pandemic devastated many industries, the travel industry was completely gutted by the pandemic. I mean, there was an entire industry that was just basically flat out put out of work.
And by extension, the hospitality industry and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, and when you go there, the landscape is going to be different. There are going to be attractions that have closed. There are going to be favorite hotels that have closed or changed ownership. Your favorite restaurants may not be there anymore. There's going to be new restaurants. There's going to be a lot of what they call creative destruction as the industry rights itself. And so Visit Britain, they are desperate for American tourists to come back. They want us to come back this year. That is the message that their national tourist body is saying, and the message their government is sending.
Desperate or eager?
Both. Visitors, please come back. And so... visitors are starting to come back. We've read quite a few messages from readers who have said they have trips planned, and
then there were people who traveled last year kind of in the lull of the pandemic, and that's not to be, I don't mean to be dismissive of anybody that went through a rough time, but where, global cases were a little lower in the northern hemisphere, and, we watched kind of people go and have great experiences, and kind of sad we missed our window. And and so now with all of this, there's nothing to stop you from traveling now. You can go. There are no restrictions in place, but that doesn't mean you should be careful, and I know we're going to be very careful. Now, briefly, I want to talk about, we have traveled internationally as the pandemic was coming to an end. No, it wasn't coming to an end. It was pre-Omicron.
It was pre-Omicron, yeah.
I could never say that properly. I apologize.
Yeah, it was pre-Omicron. Back in December, I worked for an Irish company. #Black Knight, shout out, woo! Woo! I work for an Irish company, and I last went back to the head office 2 years ago, right before the pandemic happened. And so...
Literally, like, in and out.
Yeah, like, literally, I was in and out, pandemic started, and then the whole company went completely remote, and they decided to renovate the offices while no one was there. So everyone was remote for almost 2 years. And so, well, back in December, they're like, well, we want you to come over. Let's have,
we're fully vaccinated.
Yeah. We were fully vaccinated. That was the requirement, and we had no problems fulfilling that requirement. You had to fill out all these passenger locator forms. Then we had to be tested before we arrived. They changed it literally the day before we were leaving.
Yeah, the U.S. changed the testing requirement.
No, Ireland
changed
changed
sorry,
it.
Ireland. I don't know. There was so much change happening so quickly. We really had to be super flexible and super just chill about it. And in regards to, like, we couldn't be uptight about our schedule and things changing because of just, like, what are you going to do? You gotta abide by the rules. We want to travel safely. We want us to be safe. We want the destination we go to. We want to be respectful of their situation. So you do what you got to do.
Yeah, so we follow all the red tape. There was a lot of it. She came along because she didn't want to pass up a chance to go to Ireland. And
never been. It's very beautiful.
Granted, I went for work, so like I was going to be at work the whole time I was there. But in our off hours, we had a chance to explore around and stuff. But we had to mask the whole flight. We had to mask the whole flight, which I was really concerned about doing, but it was fine. The flight was half empty anyway. There was a lot of... Once you filled all the red tape and did all the extra legwork, everything went smoothly.
And there was a lot of documentation at that point. Like, we had to bring... results for tests and that kind of thing. But you don't have to do that now.
Yeah, that's the point we wanted to get to is, and granted, Ireland is completely separate from how the UK managed the pandemic, but they did do similar things with locator forms and vaccine certifications. They did kind of work along the same lines. Well, now Ireland, as with the UK, there are no restrictions anymore. You don't have to do any of this now. So travel is back to the way it was before the pandemic.
Well, interesting though too is that the night that we landed in Ireland, or we landed that afternoon or morning, and then by that evening, it's the Taoiseach, right?
Yeah.
They were like starting to close things down because of the new variant that was going around, and so we just really had to roll with things and
we ate in empty restaurants because people weren't going out to eat.
Well, and really we kept our eating out. We rented a lovely cottage.
Yeah, we rented a cottage and just ate at home.
We ate at home. I cooked a lot because there were restaurants open, but we also wanted to be just respectful of
Yeah, a lot of tourist attractions were closed. We struggled to do things, but we're not going to talk about Ireland more because Ireland is not what this podcast is about. If you would like us to talk about our trip to Ireland, please leave a comment or send us an email, and maybe we'll do a special podcast on our travel experiences in Ireland, because I've not been to Ireland twice. You've been once, and we will be going more because now that people can travel again, my employer will be bringing me over to the head office more. Hopefully. I beg often. Hi, McKaylee, if you're watching. So all that being said, we can now travel again. Where does that leave Anglotopia? Because...
where does that leave everybody, really?
Travel for Anglotopia was a big part of what we did. It's how we did our research for our articles we put out. It's how we got photography for our calendar. It's how we got footage for our YouTube channel. Like, we had to travel to get the content that we published. And you may have noticed in the last couple of years, the content has gotten very sparse because we literally are at the end of the line of content on our previous travels in the last decade or so. There's not much left that we can talk about that we haven't already talked about. So we need to refresh that content. And now, to give you some history, the last time we were in Britain was in September 2018. We are now coming up on 4 years since we have set foot in Britain. We did not know it would be 4 years. When we left in 2018, we just assumed we would be back the next year like we always had, because the cadence we had gone. It was at least going once or twice a year as the business needed it. But after that trip, a lot changed. As we mentioned before, we both now work full-time jobs outside of Anglotopia, so Anglotopia is a side hustle now. It cannot, we can't, either of us can leave for very long for vacation. The business doesn't make as much money as it used to, so it can't fund as much travel as it used to. And so for the first 2 years after our final trip, we couldn't go just because we just could not. We couldn't afford to. Life. And we couldn't afford to. And then the pandemic happened, and then we couldn't go because of that. And that was the hardest part for me of the pandemic, was like, we kept getting so close to going back. Well, and then we kept having to cancel the trips.
And yeah, you should mention though that we actually had booked.
Yeah.
We had booked. I think we've booked and rebooked and canceled like
4 times.
Yeah.
We've booked and canceled the same trip 4 times, and it's been very frustrating. And granted, having a trip to Britain is not on the scale of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's very low on that list of needs. So it's been but personally for me, I miss England. I miss going to Britain very much. I miss going to our favorite places. I missed the cottage that we would always go to. I missed our friends. And there were some very dark days of the pandemic when it was so hard knowing that you're trapped, you can't go, and you don't know when you're going to be able to go. And every time we'd book a trip, we'd go, okay, it'll be fine by this point. We're going to, and book it.
And we're
going to be positive.
And be flexible.
And be flexible. And then a month or 2 before, we were like, there's just no way we can go. And
just with the pandemic.
Yeah, like,
purely pandemic related.
Our sort of red line was that we need to be vaccinated. And so we were kind of waiting around.
That was our initial red line.
Yeah, that was our initial red line. We kind of waited for the vaccine rollout to happen, which didn't seem like it was happening fast enough for our travel impatience. But it was a very happy day when we got the vaccine.
Yeah.
And then we booked a trip, and then had to cancel it because there was another surge. And then we got the booster, and we were very happy we could travel again. And then we booked a trip, and we were supposed to go this past January. But and that one we didn't cancel till like 2 weeks before.
Yeah.
We're like,
unfortunately,
we're just like, it was very much like, can't we? And then Omicron happened, and
then there was like, no way. And then this would be irresponsible for us.
We're like,
to do this.
It's irresponsible, and that's the point we kind of want to make. Is now it's not irresponsible to travel as long as you've taken the precautions and you are careful.
Let's say where we're at right now, end of March, early April.
Yeah.
Nobody has
this
can see the future, but as we sit right now and talk about it,
this could change again. So
as Mr. Anglotopia has like this look of dread if you're not watching live, like just. Oh.
So, okay.
You'll get there. Don't worry. You'll get there.
Okay, so we have a trip booked. When I say we, I mean me.
Royal we right over here.
Yeah, I have a trip booked. And that's just the way
with my blessing.
With her blessing. It's the way it worked out with, again, we're Americans. It's very hard for us to take time off from our jobs. We have 2 children who are middle school aged. One's late elementary school age. So, like, getting away... Both of us getting away is a lot more difficult than it was when they were much younger and much more portable.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and when they weren't in school. So now everything our entire lives revolve around their school schedule now. So
as they should. We're parents.
Yeah, and so traveling with them is just, and we're not quite ready to take them to England, but it's just the...
Well, I think the primary, though, at least for us, or at least for, I'll speak for myself, is... Just with,
It's hard enough. It was hard enough going to Ireland, just me and you, with the changing situation.
Yes, I think that's an excellent way to put it. And it's really my primary concern with taking them overseas right now is the continued unknown of the pandemic.
Well, and like to go back to the trip to Ireland, because of the requirement that you test negative before you come home, that the U.S. government has...
Even for U.S. citizens
has imposed, you don't know if you're coming home for sure till the day before you're supposed to leave. And that is really, really nerve-wracking
Yeah.
when you're in a foreign country. That was the worst part of going to Ireland, was we just didn't know we were coming home.
Well, and not only that, had we tested positive, we were less than 2 weeks from Christmas.
Yeah, and we would have been trapped in Ireland.
So, like...
Now, granted, Ireland's very lovely, and our friends would have helped and everything, but...
And, you know, Father Christmas had pre-prepared in
Yeah.
advance,
but,
should, you know...
because of quarantine regulations and whatnot, we would have been stuck, and...
But that was really nerve-wracking. And we were extra careful as one can be. You know, we masked, we kept our distance where possible, and that kind of thing.
And booking the test was a challenge because the government kept changing their requirements, but...
It was a lot.
But it was all fine because here we are.
And what was the takeaway? We were flexible.
Yeah, you have to be flexible.
We were prepared either way. Like, should we have gotten a surprise, like, oh, you're non-symptomatic, but you're actually positive for COVID. Like, yikes.
So,
that would have been scary.
So the Great Return.
The Great Return.
4 years in the making. It's like a sequel to a movie that got stuck in development hell. Back in 2016, I did a course at Oxford for a week with the English-speaking Union, and it was like one of the best weeks of my life.
You did it solo?
I did it by myself.
Here's what I found.
Oh, sorry. Siri is talking to me. She thinks I want to know about Oxford right now. So, note to self, take watch off for future recording sessions. So, and it was great. I loved pretending to be a student at Oxford. I got to stay in Oxford rooms. I got to eat in the dining hall, and we had special tours around the city. It was like I said, it was one of the best weeks of my life ever. And since then, I have wanted to repeat it. And every year, I would check the Oxford Continuing Education website. The people that run these summer programs where you can come stay for a week, you do a course, you get to stay on campus, and you get to be fed, and you get to have the whole like Oxford experience as a vacation rather than as a real student. And so I would check, every few months, and all the best courses would fill up really fast. And when they announced the courses for this year, earlier this year, I saw a course that was like, I really want to do that. Honey. So I'm doing a course on Nelson and the Georgian Navy. As a fan of Master and Commander, yeah, I'm so excited about doing it. I'm gonna go for this. And they were very clear that this could be canceled at any minute. So they're like, you need to have trip insurance because it's a very expensive course. But the course, it includes your lodging on the Oxford College, it includes the course, it includes your meals, it includes some guided tours, a field trip to Portsmouth so you can visit HMS Victory, and a few other things. So it's really great. Anyway, so I'm going to Oxford this July for a week, and Mrs. Anglotopia, as wonderful as she is, she has also said I can go for an extra week after the course.
Let's make very clear, though, like, you didn't necessarily need my permission, you just wanted my blessing. Like, I don't...
It's a lot for me to be gone, so...
like working full-time. Like,
Yeah.
I'm both parents, and I work full-time, and,
So, I'm going to be over there, and while I'm over there, I get to stay an extra week. So, because I have the best wife in the world. And so, the plan...
I'll remind you of that from time to time.
So... Now, the bulk of this trip costs nothing because, like I said, we've booked and canceled a trip so many times. All the credits from the flight and the hotel. I actually didn't even use all of our flight credit to book it.
You basically, layawayed your trip.
Like, it just, all the money's...
Through credits.
Yeah, through credits through all the travel companies. So, so I'm going to go in late July for 2.5 weeks and do the course in Oxford. And then the plan after that is I'm going to go to the Cotswolds, and then I'm going to do a steam train journey to Cornwall and back in a day with my boss, because he's into steam trains too, and I thought he's going to come over from Ireland and we're going to ride the steam train together and be steam train nerds. I just can't be very excited about it. And so we're going to have a fun steam train journey, and then after that...
Where is your steam train journey, though?
Okay, it leads from Bristol Temple Mead Station, which is a cathedral of railway stations. And it's going to go through Somerset, through Devon, into Cornwall, and terminate, I think, in Parr is where it terminates. and then you get to go take a bus to Charlestown and see where they film Poldark. So it's an all-day thing, and they feed you on the train. They feed you breakfast. They feed you dinner.
Is it like white tablecloth?
Yes.
And oh, nice.
Yeah. So me and McKaylee have a 2-person table.
I was gonna say I can't see McKaylee like not.
Yeah, he has high standards for food. So.
As do I.
Yeah. So we're doing that, and then the next day I'm going to spend the rest of the trip exploring the north of England. I have booked a nice hotel outside of Yorkshire called the Middlethorpe Hall. It's one of those National Trust hotel properties where the house got turned into a hotel, and it's owned and maintained by National Trust. So it's like you get to stay in a National Trust property essentially. So, and then there's going to be.
I'm not jealous at all. No, totally lying.
There was going to be more steam trains. So.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, more steam trains, Jack. Maybe airplanes too. And then I'll finish the trip the last 48 hours in London because I booked two hidden London tours through the London Transport Museum, which were booked with credits because previous trips had been canceled. So it was like, use it or lose it.
My shopping list for London.
This is going to be an expensive trip, and I don't mean the cost of the trip.
See, my Fortnum and Mason list. Like, do you want that digitally, or do you want just the whole notebook of...
So that is the plan. Now, today is Monday, March 28th. There is 115 days to this trip.
Every morning, folks. Every morning.
115 days. I'm almost there. I'd like to just go to sleep and wake up on July 22nd when I'm leaving, but unfortunately there's a lot to do between now and then.
Sell a lot of light boxes.
Yeah, to sell these light boxes to help fund the trip, to sell the books that we're going to be launching in the next few weeks.
Do you want to talk about those?
I will talk about those, but at the end.
Okay.
Because I want to finish the travel discussion and then we'll move on. So yeah, and it's going to be a great reintroduction to Britain because I'm going to get to visit Shaftesbury and Dorset, the place I love of all places in England. I'm going to get to see Gold Hill again, where my soul lives, which I miss so much during the pandemic. I'm going to get to spend a week in Oxford, pretending to be a student, learning about Nelson, and eating all the great food that's in Oxford. And then I'm going to get to explore a steam train journey to Cornwall, and then explore northern England. I'm basically going to go from one end of the country to the other within this 2 weeks. So I'm going to see a lot. Like, I can already see all the great pictures that will be in the 2023 calendar, articles for the website, diaries. Like, I'm swimming with content ideas, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of our friends again. I really wish she was able to come, but I'm making the most of it by doing things I know will bore her to tears.
Yes.
So I will be packing the trip at steam trains, airplanes, and stately homes, because one can get stately home fatigue after visiting so many stately homes. And, based on our trip to Ireland, based on other travel stuff that we've read, we know that I know to expect that travel will be different. That Britain's sort of landscape has been changed by the pandemic, that it's now more common for restaurants to have outside seating. A lot of streets in London were actually closed off to traffic and turned into alfresco dining scenes.
I'm there all day for that.
Yeah, a lot of that has stayed. Some tourist attractions have closed. Tourist traps have closed. No one will mourn them, other than the people that worked for them, which is sad. But new tourist traps will open. New tourist attractions have opened. All the National Trust properties have reopened.
Most or all?
All of them have. The big thing, though, that I've read is that, this was the case when we were in Ireland, is you have to plan more closely what you're going to do from day to day and not leave it up to chance, because you have to pre-book your tickets to get in everywhere. And it's usually a timed ticket. Yeah, they do that to control numbers and whatnot. And I suspect a lot of attractions will actually keep the system because it helps them manage traffic flows and not let the places get too crowded. And as some people may still not be comfortable traveling this year, people who travel this year will oftentimes have places to them, or just with other British people. So avoid coming on the school holidays
Yes.
I'll put a list in the show notes that there are times when we advise you not to go to Britain. That's when the kids are on school holidays, and they have I think there's like 6 school holidays. There's half term. There's like a week in the middle of the term. Then there's the break between terms. And then there's a 6-week break in the summer. So those are the times when the tourist attractions all around Britain are rammed with British people going to see their tourist attractions.
We learned that lesson the hard way.
Yeah, we learned that lesson the hard way when trying to go to the Natural History Museum. The line was around the block.
Literally. It was around the...
It's a free museum, so it's not like the holdup was paying to get in. It's just too many people. Some people still aren't comfortable being around other people.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. So expect people to keep their distance from you. You know.
Or the opposite. Expect people not to keep their... You just got to really roll with it.
I know the London Transport has said that their numbers are getting back to what they were, Pre-pandemic, so the tube trains are getting crowded again.
I think I read something this week that they were saying. But here in Chicago, I read something very similar saying that, within the past couple of weeks, it feels like there are more people in the city, and people are starting to commute again.
Yeah, I know Chicago for the last 2 years up until a couple months ago.
Well, not even a month ago.
Yeah, downtown Chicago was a ghost town.
Bizarre, very eerie.
Even on a Saturday in the summer.
Yeah,
it was just
nobody.
There was just nobody down there. And granted,
with the exception though of like Lollapalooza or something like that. Then
there's more to it than just the pandemic in Chicago's case, but now it feels like Chicago is back to life. Like we've been to the symphony in the last few months. We went to the opera last week. We've been to the Art Institute. Like people are like the cultural life of Chicago is coming back. And from what I've read and from what I've talked to with our friends over there, that's the case in London. Life is coming back. Cultural life is coming back. Just expect, now there's no mask requirements, but maybe if you're comfortable, you should probably wear a mask.
We mask.
We mask still, I will probably mask while I'm traveling. Because I don't want to get COVID while I'm there. So
yeah, please don't bring that home. And
I don't want to bring it home. And so, and like she said earlier, the biggest thing is flexibility.
Yeah.
You have to be flexible because, I've planned all these things for my trip, but I'm also well aware that I may have to cancel every single one of these things and do something else because the train got canceled or the hotel got closed or like...
It might just be this guy holed up in a cottage somewhere. You're like, hey, this does not sound bad.
That sounds fine to me. Just being stuck in English countryside for 2 weeks, that's fine. I'll just write, log into work because I'm lame like that. So that's the travel plan. I don't know when we're going to go together. She only gets 2 weeks vacation and it's not fair for me to take her whole vacation to take her to England if that's not where she wants to go. There are other places we would like to...
Wow. Did you really just word it like that?
Well, no.
Okay, I'm just going to say that there's probably like a tropical island somewhere down in the Caribbean. No offense. We could go to a British island.
Okay.
We can go to a British island. There we go. Best of both worlds.
Yeah. There are other places that both of us would like to go than Britain, too. So it's not fair for me to hog all of our vacation time to go to England. We talked about going for the Platinum Jubilee in June, but honestly, when we talked about it and talked it out, it was initially in its first iteration was like a big family trip and taking the kids, and which could have been really, really cool. Yeah. But for our family, we have some unique needs for our family situation. It depends on a lot of factors. And then we talked about it and we looked back to the Diamond Jubilee and realized when we took the kids the last time.
Well, there was only one kid at that point.
Yeah, there was only one. Now there's two. They keep multiplying.
Multiplying.
And we had a great time being there for Diamond Jubilee. It was a great trip, one of the best, even with the stress of traveling with a 6-month-old. But when we looked at the events that we attended and the things that we did, we didn't really need to be there for a lot of the Diamond Jubilee stuff. And the way we're going to cover it this time around, we'll have the content anyway. whether I'm there or not, through a partnership we have with the PA now. So...
Well, that, and we've got friends that have always kind of stepped in the gap, and people who write for Anglotopia, and we've built a great network.
Yeah, we've got writers, and we've got, like, friends and writers and wire services. Like, I don't actually need to physically be there for the Platinum Jubilee, especially if it's very much a repeat of what happened 10 years ago.
Can I get that statement in writing?
No, I really want to be there.
Oh, I know you really want to be there.
I'm still trying to find a way to go.
Oh my goodness.
This is me asking, by the way. But as a family, it didn't make sense for us all to go. And like I said, I don't want to hog all her vacation time, dragging her around for... And honestly, like, we're not necessarily comfortable going to events with a lot of people.
No. And
that's what the Platinum Jubilee will be, events with lots of people.
Well, I mean, let's like, if we're going to really super be honest here, like, we went to the Diamond Jubilee with a child in a stroller, and it was amazing. The crowd was great. We were in London, but, like, we hit this point where we were coming down to the river to see the flotilla parade, right?
Yeah.
And, like, it started to become this crush.
It started to rain, too.
As we expected it to be a crush. And, you know, we're Chicagoans. Like, we're used to cities. We're used to big crowds. But there was something about this crowd that... And maybe it was just as a new mom where I was just like, you know what? This feels scary to me. This many people. And I have an infant. And so it was raining. And I said to him, I'm like... I'm going back to the flat to watch this on Tully, which is the most ridiculous thing ever. Yeah. But you know what?
It was all going on outside, but we were just watching it on Tully.
It was great. We had a fire in the fireplace in our flat. We put out a beautiful British spread, put Anglotopia Jr. down for a nap, and we enjoyed it. So, just kind of like thinking through like what the next Jubilee would look like. What would that look like with our kids? You know, I can at least speak for myself. Like, although life is returning to normal, like, I'm not comfortable in a crowd of thousands or hundreds of thousands. Like, I'm not comfortable with that yet. And so to put the kids in that situation too, like, and I'm just trying to illustrate the point that even pre-pandemic, it made me a little like, ooh, there are a lot of people out here, as there should be, but I think that level of crowd just made me uncomfortable even then. So I can't imagine, like, what that would be like now add some pandemic on top.
Yeah, so we're not going for the Platinum Jubilee. And at this point, who knows what will change. I didn't plan to go to Harry and Meghan's wedding, but then the media appearances started calling, like, we want to talk to you. Are you going to be there? And it's like, well...
We built those strategic partnerships.
Yeah, like it's important to keep that going so you don't lose that.
Relationships.
So if I start getting calls like that, then I might have to go. But we don't want to. We'll see.
We're not taking a big family trip.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a big family trip anyway. Yeah, and so as a consequence, I don't know when we're going as a family. Their kids are old enough now that I think they would like a trip to England because that's all it's all I talk about. They might be curious to know about the place that their dad is obsessed with.
And I think for our family and our family's needs, because our kids are still kids, from Chicago to London, that's a good time jump. And so now you're going to contend with jet lag, and one of our kids, would do okay, and the other kid just would not do great with jet lag, and just... So, they get over it, but what my point is that we really would like to go for, like, a week to, like, 9-10 days with them. And so it's just really kind of finding that time, not only in their schedule with school, but in our schedules as well, to kind of book out and block out that amount of time to go do that.
Yeah.
And eventually we will. So
we
just need to... It just needs to...
And I feel like even just one of us just needs to go, and then that will start travel again. Like, then it will feel possible, and it will feel like things are, for us at least, getting back to some kind of normality. That us can go to England again. So moving on to books.
Okay.
And because that's the Platinum Jubilee is a good segue for that. We decided to put out a special magazine/book thing on the Queen.
It's a collector's item.
It's a commemorative
thing.
It's a commemorative.
It's beautiful.
And we haven't seen it yet. I don't have it. It will be beautiful.
We've seen the mock-ups.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful.
So it's called Crown and Glory, and it costs $24.99 US. Free ship. It includes free shipping to the USA. Sorry, elsewhere we have to charge because it's a lot to ship internationally right now. But it's $24.99. It's 128 full color pages, and it is a guide to every aspect of Queen Elizabeth's life, reign, British history, British culture. Right now I'm working on a big long article chronicling all the kind of the major events that have happened in Britain during her entire reign.
She's lived through a lot of history and guided a lot of history.
So we've covered the core of it is a series of 12 articles that we've actually been publishing in the magazine that's sunsetting this year, the Anglotopia magazine. And so we put all 12 of these articles, that's the core of it, and it covers every aspect of her life, her childhood, her relationship with Margaret, the abdication crisis, because she wasn't supposed to be queen, how that all came about, her life as a mother, modernizing the monarchy, her marriage to Philip, the coronation, everything. And on top of that, there's going to be tons of licensed pictures, historical images that we've gotten, key events, key people.
Well, and it's more than just that, though. It's that we really wanted to tell a narrative, right? And that, there are, probably millions of pictures of her, but the goal was that, we wanted to really kind of almost make our own tribute to the Queen, right? So, we lovingly put this together as a tribute to really kind of, Anglotopia's celebration of her time on the throne and the remarkable job she's done.
Well, and a celebration of Britain during its reign, because it is such a changed country from her beginning of her reign to now.
Post-World War II.
Yeah. Her reign began in the austere post-war years where they were still in rationing.
Yeah.
And now look at Britain, And so we the thing is going to cover all of that. Commemorative. We started selling it a couple weeks ago. We're only making 250 copies. So it's like a collectible.
That's what I said from the start.
And we've sold 150. So if you would like one, we would urge you to follow the link in the show notes and reserve one, because we're going to press probably next week. I'm almost done laying everything out. I'm 90% there. Just got to get over the line. And that's going to be a great, great thing for Anglotopia readers to have. And you won't be able to get it anywhere else. We may be able to release a few copies on Amazon, but I won't know until we finished sales and how many copies are left. And and then they are going to ship next month. So you'll have them in time for the Jubilee celebration, so you can have it as your little guidebook to the Jubilee. There's a great article in there by Laura Porter, our London correspondent, who has summarized all the events that are going to be happening.
There's so much going on.
Yeah, and so you'll know how to plan your TV viewing around it. It's a great little publication, a commemorative publication. So follow the link in the show notes and you can reserve one. I'd urge you to do it sooner rather than later. We'll issue the last call next week, and that will be the last gasp with that. And then on top of that, I have a lineup of 3 books that I need to get out before I go to Oxford. And I need to get them out because they're going to help pay for my expenses while I'm there. And so the first book that's coming out this Friday, that I just finished literally yesterday, finished laying it out yesterday, is a book called Great Events in British History. The top 50 most important events that Anglophiles must know about British history. It's a similar format to the book we put out last year called Great Britons, which was the top 50 greatest Brits who ever lived. This covers events, not people. And it's the tagline I came up with yesterday was that it's the Anglophiles guidebook to British history. It will tell you the 50 most important events that you need to know about in British history, and it gives you a summary of it, its legacy, how it's important to Britain now. And then my goal when you read this book is that if you watch British TV and they're talking about an event or a thing, you'll know because it's in the book, where you can use the book as a reference. And the book is massive. It's going to be 450 pages. 450 pages. If the name sounds familiar, about 3/4 of the articles have been published on the website in the past. The rest have not. And so there will be a lot of new...
They've been updated and...
Yeah, they've been updated, and there will be a lot of... So, like, there's a lot of new content in the book. And it's going to be sort of a great little reference. They'll be releasing an ebook and a print version. So that'll be released from Friday. And I'll update the show notes after this goes out with the link to that. But it'll be on the Anglotopia store. Don't worry, we'll send an email blast when it's on the release day. We'll be shouting about it for a while. The next book that we want to put out is, and I'm halfway done writing it, is 101 Oxford Travel Tips. Ironic. Notice a theme here. So we have a publication now called 101 London Travel Tips. The core of our business is this guidebook. Like, it's very popular. And so the plan is to start releasing guidebooks in a similar format for other major cities and geographic areas around Britain.
Well, and heavily traveled areas.
Places that we know really well.
Well, that are really
and
draws
popular,
for tourists.
Popular with tourists. So this one is about Oxford. Coincidentally, I'm going to Oxford, so hopefully the sales will help with that. I'm halfway done writing it. It's turning out really great. And it's also giving me a lot of ideas for the next ones, because like we're going to do the Cotswolds, we're going to do Dorset, but that's in the future. I have to be careful not to get overwhelmed with all the things I want to do.
Yeah, deep breath. I feel like our readers need a deep breath now too. Like, everybody deep breath.
I'm speaking very fast. So, and then the next book after that is going to be Great British Icons, following a similar format to the events in the Great Britain's book. What's
the difference between an icon and a Great Britain?
The icons are things.
Oh, literally.
So the icons are Great British brands, Great British things like the phone box, the mailbox, the TARDIS, like things like that Britain is known for, and it gives you the background on those and the history and whatnot. That should be coming out in June. We saw on our drive from Lansing to John O'Groats, along with sort of being a travelogue to the journey, and then the appendices will be some travel tips for people who want to do the drive. It's called A Trip Too Far, Lansing to John O'Groats, and I'm hoping to open up for pre-orders this summer, but I have to finish writing it first, but I'm almost done with it. So give me encouragement, Internet. I need encouragement to finish it because I need to get over the line. It's been a very, very, very difficult book to write for lots of reasons I won't go into here. We'll talk about all this when the book is released. It's very challenging to write, especially during the pandemic, and especially the further away we get from the trip, the harder it is to write about it. But I think what has ended up being created is going to be a nice, worthy travel memoir that everybody's going to love, and I think I'm really excited to share it with everybody. So now that I'm losing my voice, I think this is a good place to wrap it up. What do you think?
Agreed.
So that's it for us from now. We promise not to be so long until the next podcast. And thanks for listening. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave a comment on YouTube, leave a comment on our Facebook page or on the website, or you can email us at editor@anglotopia.net, and you can get in touch with us. So thanks for listening. Bye, everybody.